Hello and welcome to episode 42 of the Sandeman Street Podcast, a podcast about Dundee and Dundee United from fans of both clubs. I'm Andrew, and as always I'm joined by my regular co-host Jack. Jack, how are you this week?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, better than last week, shall we say.
I'm the opposite.
Well,
but other than that, I'm fine.
The life of a football fan in Scotland, isn't it?
Very much so.
Before we get into all the nitty-gritty, I would like to ask if people could follow us on our social media platforms. On Twitter, we are at Sandeman ST Pod. On Instagram, we are at the Sandeman Street Pod. And on YouTube, we are at the Sandeman Street Podcast. If you could follow us on those, I'd really appreciate if you could do that. I know that I've been pushing this for the vast majority of the season. We don't really seem to take up a lot of followers, so if you could follow us, subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, that would be great. I know that some people do share when we post that we are uploading episodes. If people could continue to do that and more people do that, that would be very much appreciated. So thank you in advance if you do plan to do that. But we'll get straight into it, Jack, and I think this week we'll start with Dundee, given that their game was probably of higher importance to ourselves anyway. A 1-0 victory against St Mirren at Dens, with Kilmarnock obviously picking up points in the game that we'll cover later on. It was a massive win for Dundee and puts them just on the verge of safety, I'd say.
Yeah, it's a good result for Dundee, especially with Kelly getting their win as well. It's a very important 3 points, push you further away from St Mirren. I didn't see the game, I seen the goal, but that was about it, so I don't know how you played or whatnot, but St Mirren are always going to be a difficult side. They always are. They're a physical team, and Dundee tend to struggle against physical teams, but you got the win, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously coming off the back of defeating a derby, not just a defeat, they went down without a fight, really, out with a whimper. They really needed to show a bit of heart and show a bit of desire, and I thought they did that on Saturday. They really did put it out, especially in the first half. They were really very, very good in the first half. Probably could have been more than 1-0 up. In the second half, they went off it a wee bit, but they dug in, defended relatively well. It's actually our first clean sheet since we last played St Mirren, which was at the end of January, so it's been a long time coming, and it was good to get that hoodoo off the defenders' backs. All were pretty poor, all the players were pretty poor at Tannadice. I think one of the players that got particular criticism was Jan Danda. I thought Jan Danda was absolutely excellent on Saturday. Really got stuck into the midfield, and he was very good going forward. It's a type of performance that we didn't really expect to see from him when he signed on loan from Hearts in the summer. We thought he'd be the number 10, like the creative player, but as the seasons went on, he has dropped back further and further in the pitch. Kind of plays alongside Hamilton, with at the moment Joe Wesley playing slightly in front of the two of them, and he's certainly shown another side to his game. Hopefully, if we do manage to get him on a permanent deal, that he can do a bit more consistently next season, but time will tell on that one. They made a few changes from the derby. Brad Halliday came in at right back. I thought he was very good. Dre Wright came back in. It was an absolute mystery why he went out in the first place. Slotted back in with ease. Had a very good game. The two central defenders were very good again. The midfield played very well. I thought it was Cam Congreve was one of his best performances in weeks. He was excellent in the first half. Terrorised them down their left hand side. And Tony Egan come back in. He's always going to cause problems. Simon Murray done a lot of the hard graft that you would go unnoticed, but had a decent enough performance without really being threatening enough in front of goal. One kind of sore point was that John McCracken had to go off injured in the second half, midway through the second half. Kieran O'Hara came in for his debut, and he was immediately facing an in-swinging corner. Kind of came out and didn't get the cleanest of contact on the ball, but got the ball away and then settled into the game and had a relatively steady debut. So that's reassuring to know that if that is John McCracken's season finished, that we've got a boy that's probably more than capable of slotting in for the last 3 games. I mean, he's an internationalist. He played 20-odd games for Kilmarnock in the Premier League last season, so I'd imagine that he'll be more than capable of filling in for the rest of the season, and there's talk of him signing a new deal and staying into next season, so that's a good thing. With the highlights, I take it you'll obviously have seen the goal. Was a very well taken goal from Joe Wesley, which is his first goal since we played St Mirren at Dens at the end of November.
If you cut off the goal he scored against United that got chopped off.
Well, interesting enough that you say that, because last week we were obviously discussing that at length, and at the time when we were recording, I believed in the answer that I'd seen online, and obviously I think you hadn't been aware of it, but since I was speaking you were made aware of it through myself, was that the goal was disallowed for handball. It since came out that the goal was disallowed for a shirt pull. Now, I was watching Willie Collum's show that he does with is it Gordon Duncan on YouTube, and these sort of things with the referees just continue to mystify me. He spoke about the shirt pull on Ross Graham, and he briefly spoke about the shirt pull on Cometio from, I think it's Sapsford that was kind of wrestling him. And he says that starts later than the other one. Now, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But the thing that I kind of find absolutely mystifying about it all is that, see if Sapsford isn't wrestling or pulling Cometio's shirt, he's going to beat Luke Graham and Ross Graham to the ball. So, if you take away the fact that he's been wrestled from Sapsford, he's probably going to at least connect with the ball to header it. Whether it goes in on target, we'll never know, because it's never going to happen. So how could that not be a penalty? Now, we went over this all last week, so we're covering no ground, but it's like to pick and choose what they want to see when you're watching these VAR programmes. It really does mystify me.
You can't give a penalty though based on a probability. You can't base it on, oh, he might have got there, he might have not got there. I don't think they can make that decision based on that. But
you could say that, you could flip that, and on the same token you could say that Ross, how do you know that Ross Graham's going to beat Luke Graham to the header?
That's true, yeah. Good point.
In my opinion, you either didn't give either of them because there's 2 fouls going on, one against one team, one for one team, and you let it play through, or you have to give the attacking team the benefit of the doubt and you give the penalty. Now, they wouldn't have had to give the penalty because the ball ended up going in the net and we got an advantage. But I know that we're covering old ground, and we spoke about this last week. And it's that in isolation isn't really so much the thing that bothers me the most. It's the fact that you honestly feel like you're watching a completely different sport sometimes when you're listening to these referees speaking. It really does mystify me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we talked about it last week, so probably shouldn't go too much in depth about it. But yeah, that's what they're saying. It's now a shirt pull rather than the handball. Then I don't know. Obviously, it's happened now, and there's nothing we can really do about it. So we just have to move on. But as for the Dundee game, yeah, it was a good finish by Wesley. Took it well. Obviously, it's good for Dundee for him to get his first goal. He's a permanent player for you, isn't he? Or is he a loan signing?
Yeah, he's a permanent signing. Yeah, I think 2 or 3 year deal.
I mean, that's a good signing for Dundee. Like, he'll be able to contribute next year. He's obviously playing a bit deeper back now than he was at the start of the season before his injury. But yeah, it's good for him to get that goal. That'll boost his confidence, and hopefully it can spur him on to score a couple more for Dundee in the last few games.
A lot of people see him as a striker, but I actually see him more as like a just in behind the striker position,
like a shadow.
I feel like that's where you would get the best from him. I don't think he's an out-and-out striker because I don't think he'll score enough goals, but I think playing just in behind the striker in like a 4-2-3-1 is effectively what Dundee are playing at the moment. You could say it's 4-2-3-1, you could say it's 4-3-3. It really, he's playing in off a striker, and then he'll come back and tuck into midfield and give us the numbers in midfield when we're defending.
Has he got that instinct about him to drop back though?
It seems like it, yeah. I mean,
yeah, he's got that
I
bite.
think he's probably came through as a young boy as a striker, as an attacker, but he certainly got the intelligence to play in that role that he's playing. And I mean, his debut at Ibrox, he played off Ashe as like that kind of second striker, and I thought he was excellent that day at Ibrox on his debut. He'd signed during the week, he's threw straight in Ibrox and he played very well. So I think going forward, that's kind of where Stephen Presley sees him.
Yeah, fair. He's quite a tall lad, eh? So I when he signed for Dundee, I'm pretty sure he was deemed a striker. And they've probably seen him and went, we'll probably chuck him in just behind the striker instead. But yeah, that's good that you've got him, and hopefully for Dundee with that goal, it pushes them on to score maybe a couple more and guarantee your safety for next season.
Definitely. And with that win, obviously, that's now still 5 points ahead of Kilmarnock, and now 6 points ahead of St Mirren, who are now in the playoff place. I have to say, having seen St Mirren, and I know that they're playing Kilmarnock and Paisley on Saturday, and all could change again, given Kilmarnock are absolutely horrendous away from home. I think St Mirren have a look of a team that are sleepwalking towards that playoff place. I don't know what you think, but kind of a twofold question. One, what do you think on that point? And two, do you think that's Dundee probably just about safe now?
For the St Mirren one, I can't really say. I've not seen them in person. I've not seen a full game with them, so I can't say what they're like. I'm pretty sure they did lose, or I think they did lose against Livy a couple of weeks ago, who aren't great. They've obviously lost against you now. Kelly next week. Who knows, that's a 6 pointer right there. They could very much be heading towards the playoff place. I think they'll probably have too much for anyone that they face. It's just the way the system's designed. It's easier for the teams in the league above to stay up, in my opinion. But yeah, I think they could be facing the playoff, considering how Kelly turned us over at the weekend. As for Dundee staying up, I think so, mate. I think you've got enough about you. You've beat St Mirren. Obviously, you've lost your hardest game against us. Aberdeen, they're on a wee bit of a decent run just now, but you've already proven you can beat them this season. Kelly, you've proven you can beat this season, so I think you've got a good enough chance of staying up, mate. I think you're pretty much basically there, so yeah, I think Dundee will be safe from now on.
And just before we move on, I wanted to kind of challenge you a wee bit on that, what you're saying about the way that the playoffs are kind of designed now. 100% they're designed in terms of favouring the Premier League team. Now, in my opinion, it should be second bottoms play second, home and away, and that should be it. Keep things simple. You've got a 10-team league that almost half the teams that finish in positions can get promoted in. So out of 10 teams, 6 teams out of 7 go into either a relegation promotion or promotion playoff. It's relegation playoff. Bottom gets relegated, second bottom goes into the relegation playoff. Third and second go into the promotion playoffs, and first gets promoted. It's a lot of different teams going into a lot of different things for a 10-team league. But what I disagree with, and you obviously hear this every season, but nobody ever seems to mention this, is that see, if you're Partick Thistle on this occasion, they finish second, they play 36 league games. They then go into a playoff against either Arbroath or Dunfermline this season. By the time they get round to playing against whoever finishes 11th in the Premier League, they'll have played the same amount of games as the Premier League team, because the Premier League team play 38 games. Now, another argument that you hear when you mention this is that, well, they've played a playoff semi-final and like high stakes playoff game, but it's looking like, it might not, but it's looking like, and most seasons it does happen, that it goes down to the final day. So, for example, if it was St Mirren that finished in the playoff place, they're playing Kilmarnock on Saturday, they then play Aberdeen, I think, and then they play United, the last game of the season. I think that's right. Because they've played Livy and they've played us, so yeah, they play Kilmarnock and then they've got Aberdeen and then they've got United. If they're fighting for their lives to avoid the 11th place playoff up until the United game on the last game of the season, they're going to be putting just as much into those games as the team who as Partick Thistle are into the playoff games. So they're not going to have any sort of advantage in terms of how ready they are physically or not. They're not. It's not like they're on holiday before they go and play Partick. Partick have got this week off whilst they're waiting on Arbroath playing Dunfermline. So I disagree with it. If it's, I understand that if the third or fourth team come through the playoff and get into the final, this is the final against the Premier League team, because yeah, they all have played extra games. But if it's the second place team who comes through, then I don't think there's any advantage whatsoever. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, that's good points, mate. I think for the playoff, I think it should be one of two things. It should be either second, well, it could be three things essentially. It could be scrap the playoffs altogether, get rid of the bottom two, and get the top two of the championship up. Second one could be second bottom versus second top, and third option should be second bottom plays. If you're desperate to keep the playoff system kind of in the way it is, you have the second bottom team in the Prem play the fourth place team in the Championship, second and third place in the Championship play each other, and then the winner of that play each other in the final.
Yeah, so like what it's like in the two leagues below.
Yeah, essentially. Why not? Why is it different for the Premiership and not the rest of it?
Look, I understand where you're coming from, and you've got loads of different alternatives for the current system, or you could scrap altogether or whatever, but I just think that if you finish third or fourth in a 10-team league, do you really deserve to get promoted?
Probably not. Now, but then I would just, like I said, I would probably just scrap the playoffs altogether.
See, I don't agree with that. I think is what I said at the beginning, it should be second bottom plays second top in a home and away game, and that's it. Because I think that when you've got leagues as small as ours, you can't have too many automatic relegation places. I just think that there's too much jeopardy, especially when, like, that's why I'm an advocate for a bigger league. See, I would have an 18-team Premier League. I know that a lot of people would probably go to 16, but I would have 18. And the reason I would go to 18 is because, yeah, people are constantly saying, like, every game matters and there's always so much drama and blah, blah, blah. But see if you've got, like, I don't know, if there was an 18-team league or even a 16-team league, teams like Dundee and United and Aberdeen when they're having a bad season, and Kilmarnock and all these teams who are like kind of bottom half Premier League teams at the moment in the current system, those sort of teams will be mid-table. See, by about April time, where you kind of know that you're safe and because it's a bigger league, then you'll play kids and kids will get their chance to come in and play. At the moment, when there's a high stakes game on almost every single match, like United are in a bit of a position now where they can do what I'm saying they can do in a bigger league, but that doesn't happen every season.
I'm gonna rebuke that point, because I feel like the owners, regardless, until their position is absolutely confirmed, they're still going to want to finish higher if they can for the prize money, and so they're going to tell the coaches, Jim Goodwin, etc., whoever it is, try and win all these games if you can, and try and finish highest up the league as you can, so we get more prize money. And once the position is secured, that's when you play the teams. That's when you play the youngsters. And I don't think having an extended league would change any of that. I think you would need to put in rules regarding youth boys having to play in the first team. Otherwise, I think it would just get ignored.
The only other way you could do that is you scrap prize money and everyone gets the same money.
Yeah. I mean, so that could work, but that would never get voted on.
You had a pot at the beginning of the season and everybody gets 16 ways or 12 ways or whatever it is, how many people are in the league.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad idea, but then you've got to mind that as soon as Rangers or Celtic, they're not going to be happy with that, so they'll just reject outright, I think.
Well, we've all got Aberdeen to blame for that, have we? Because
Exactly.
they were in charge of getting rid of this stupid fucking 11-1 voting system that we've got.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, only in football, and only in Scottish football, would we have such an undemocratic voting structure. It should be a majority rules. If 7 teams out of the 12 want something, then that's what we should have.
Yeah. Yeah. Or at least it's got to be 80% of the league system has to vote for yes or something.
But I just didn't understand how a majority can have it, because majority rules in everything in life.
Yeah, but you'd have to have every single team in the Scottish Pyramid voting for that.
But if it's, for example, like for example, when we had the vote last year for the AstroTurf pitch ban, I don't know what your position is on that. We've asked Neil. Wonder what his answer would be. The Premier League teams are voting for that because it only affects them. I understand the promoted teams, it affects them as well, but the Premier League teams are voting for that particular issue. If 7 teams from the Premier League don't want AstroTurf, then it should be that should be the Premier League rule.
Yeah, in the Premier League, that's fine, but if we're talking about prize money, then that should really stretch down to all the leagues, no?
Yeah, so you've got 42 teams.
Yep.
So if 22 teams out of the 42 want it, that the prize money gets put into pots in each particular league. So, for example, if you finish top of the Premier League and you get £4 million, if you finish bottom of the Premier League you get £1.3 million, then that money for the top team and the bottom team and all the teams in between go into a pot, and then so on down the leagues. You know what I mean? So we're not splitting the whole pot 42 ways. We're splitting what would already be paid in each particular league 12 ways, 10 ways, 10 ways, 10 ways.
Yeah, I know, but I think if you have it, I'm more concerned about the actual. I know it's not really the point of it, but the voting structure of what you're saying is if we've got 22 votes out of the 42, then it should go ahead, because clubs will be like, well, that's too close a vote to actually mean anything. I think that's when you've got to go to 70% of the vote. 80% of the people have got to vote yes. And then that way they go, well, it's clearly not close at all. And so people may have been pressured, whatever, to vote a certain way. That's no longer the case because there's so many votes over that it's just clear that that's the preferred option.
Well, I think that if you can have a general election in a country and a party can get in based on how many seats they get in percentage, over 50% of the seats, then you can have Scottish football voting for things like prize money and league reconstruction.
Fair.
So, yeah, I just think the majority rules, and if 7 teams out of 12 want something brought in, then that should be what it is. But that's never going to happen, so what's the point in talking about it?
Exactly.
Jack, we tried to get Martin on to give his thoughts on his trip to Rugby Park on Saturday, and he shot the bed and he's decided to come on, so you're up.
It was absolutely terrible, mate. I think Jim Goodwin's got his selection wrong. I think he's tried to put a team out that will win the game whilst also trying to cater for the young players to get the minutes, and it's just not worked. I think you either send out your strongest team to win the game or you send out all your youth expecting to get beat. And he's went for a semi-strong team and the youth players, and it's just resulted in us getting beat and battered anyway. So it would have been just as beneficial just playing a whole team of youth players. I think he got his selection completely wrong. He made too many changes from the Derby win. Obviously, we've got a terrible record against Kelly as is, and that lineup wouldn't have helped. I don't know why he sticks with Max Waters. He's done nothing since about August. I think it's probably to do with the loan deal. I'm imagining the more we play him, the less we pay in wages. So I'm imagining that's why he's playing, because he shouldn't be playing. He's just not offering anything to the team. I thought defensively we were all over the place. All the goals we conceded were very poor. Individual errors for each of the goals. First goal, Kelly goal, it's a corner. Every player misses it, including the goalkeeper, and the boys just there at the back post to hit it in with a jumping kick. Second goal, Crestes tries to win the ball, falls over. Graham tries to win the ball, falls over, and the boys, Curtis is one-on-one with Richards, and he slots it past him. And then the last one, ball's running back towards the goalkeeper. Clear Harden's there. He tries to pass it back to Richards. He's not got enough on it, and the Kelly boy runs in, taps it past Richards, and it's 3. It's just a really poor performance. He's put on boys like Sturton with 5 minutes to go. What's that going to do? You're already 3-0 down. There's no jeopardy anymore. There's no pressure. I get there's no pressure, and that's a good thing, but 5 minutes is going to do nothing for these boys. It should have been a case of either they're all on from the start or none of them start, and you put out the strongest team possible, and he never did it. I think we were weak, we were lacklustre, didn't put any pressure on them. They pressed us very well. We struggled with that all game, and I thought Killie were well worth the win.
Having watched the highlights, Jack, it seemed like each goal got more comical than the last one.
Yeah, mate, ridiculous. Clear Harden, it happens. You know, he's young, he's going to make mistakes. But boys like Crestes and Graham, like, be a bit more strong. Like, both of them lost their challenges to smaller players than them. And then the first one, everyone misses the ball. I don't know how you miss it. It just wasn't good enough, to be honest.
And I know that you and Martin were speaking in the group chat before, during and after the match on Saturday. I don't know if it was a tongue-in-cheek from either of you, but I can't remember which one it was that said Goodwin out or whatever. And I remember Martin specifically saying that he wanted you to discuss his tactics and really scrutinise him for his team selection, etc. But if there was serious about the Goodwin out, I know that you've said in the past that you're not his biggest fan, and his tactics obviously let him down on Saturday. I noticed that in his interview after the match with whoever was at Kilmarnock on Saturday for the radio or the telly, he mentioned we're 3-0 victory over Dundee on more than one occasion. It's like, yeah, Jim, you have got the victory in the derby on your back, and that'll help you maybe for a week or two, but you can't consistently getting pumped off Kilmarnock every single time you play them. I know that this is a bit of a ongoing theme for United, and it's not just United under Jim Goodwin, but I've seen a stat that Kilmarnock have taken something like 10 points off United in 4 games and knocked them out of cup.
Yeah,
that's no good enough, because Kilmarnock are shite.
Yep. And imagine if we'd won or got some points out of that, then Killie would have been well in the relegation fight.
I know.
Worse than they are now.
I mean, you look at our how many points they've taken off Dundee in comparison. I think it's 2 out of 9.
Yeah.
And both of them were at home, and Dundee knocked them at the Scottish Cup.
Yeah, it's obviously tactics. It's all on tactics. I think Goodwin's tactics, he plays, it's 3-4-3 he plays. I don't think it works. It's is it 3-4-3? Whatever it is he plays, it doesn't work. You have 2 boys in the middle of the pitch. There's no creativity there. If they get outnumbered, if there's 3 boys in the middle of the pitch, you're going to lose the game. And that's what Kelly did. I think it just does not work, the tactic. It works against Dundee because Presley can't work it out. And I don't know how he doesn't work it out because every manager in the league has. But against Dundee it works. Against everyone else, it doesn't. And he needs to go for the back. If he's going to stay on, he needs to go for the back. Try it for the back for the next few games. I think he tried it once last year maybe, or in a pre-season game or whatever, and it didn't work. But that could have been the personnel, that could have been the way he set it up. It could have just been the opposition. You've got to go for the back. I think free the back just does not work. I've mentioned this previously. There's next to no managers that have won anything with free at the back. Conte is maybe the only one. Every other manager goes for the back, and Jim Goodwin feels like he's the type of person who can win something with Dundee United with three at the back, and it's a joke because you can't, and not many people can. It's just poor. It's very, very poor, and he's stubborn. He doesn't want to change his system. That's how he wants to play football, and that's the be-all and end-all, I feel like. And it's at our detriment at the end of the day.
Now, there's a few kind of things that I've picked up on from viewing a few of the things that United supporters have been saying on Twitter, so I'm just going to kind of speak at you, and then you kind of pick apart what you want to and what you want to pick up on and what not. So I've seen the United supporters saying that there hasn't been any players that Jim Goodwin has signed that have improved. They all seem to have regressed. So if you look at the beginning of the season, and I know it was a very, very short kind of time window, but you had Boy Waters, who came in like a house on fire, scored goals in Europe, took a couple of goals in Europe at home, and he scored away from home as well. He's no scored the league goal this year, I don't think, and if he has, there's only been once. The boy Kamara started off very, very well. He was playing on Saturday, but other than that, he's coming off the bench every week. The boy Yugi's far better than him, but he started off very well and he's regressed. There's numerous different examples of players who have come in, started the season. Like the other boy, the centre half boy, they can't get a game now. Esselink, yeah, he's went backwards. Your best mate, the boy Ferrugia, has never seemed to have kicked the ball ever since he signed. I've seen another thing from a different United supporter saying they just want the season to end and they need a massive rebuild. Well, they had a massive rebuild last season, or this beginning of this season, and it's not worked really. They've went backwards. Now, I've consistently said on this podcast that when you get promoted, the second season is always the hardest. It proved that for Dundee last season. This season it's proved for United. United came up with a solid core of their championship winning team, and Jim Goodwin added 2 or 3 players, or maybe a bit more than that, but a handful of players to that kicked on. They were lucky with, not maybe it's lucky, it's a bit harsh to say that they were lucky, but your Aberdeens and your Hearts had poor seasons and they managed to get themselves in a European spot, but they deserved it over the 38 games of the season. It isn't lucky, but what I'm saying is that the teams that are usually sniffing about that weren't there that season. They then rip all that up and they go younger. It's not worked because they went backwards, and yeah, they'll probably finish top of the bottom 6, but United supporters didn't believe they should be there. I just wanted to throw that all at you and see what you think about it, because you can't consistently chop and change a whole squad every single season. There has to be a basis or a base of what you're going with, and then you add to that. Obviously, if you're at a club for quite a lot of years, there is going to become times where you might need a massive rebuild. But I didn't think good managers let that happen.
Yeah. So I'll just go back to your first point, the one where the players regressing. I believe that's mostly the case. I feel like, as you mentioned, boys like Bert Esselink, first couple of games looked absolutely brilliant. Controlled the defence, looked calm as you like. Won everything that came his way, and then suddenly he just starts bombing, and it's just became a nightmare. He's been dropped completely. Doesn't get on the bench anymore. Kamara, like you say, played very well at the start. Got worse. Max Water looked a nice wee sign in. He's done nothing since the start of the season. Even Dolchek joined, 5 goals in 4 games or whatever it was, and then just dropped completely. Didn't perform well at all. Yeah, I think...
Mate, you can even add Sapsford to that.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. He was good, and I think he's definitely fell off a cliff. He's nowhere near the player he was at the start of the season. I think you can maybe have a couple of arguments in saying that Savelj has improved under him. Obviously, he was signed as a centre half, and now he's been moved to the middle of the pitch, and he's probably one of our best players, if not our best player. One of the most consistent, anyway. And then I would also argue Juvu. I know he's a young centre half, but he seems to have developed quite well come the end of the season. So I would say for the 2 players, they've probably improved. as for the rest of the team, I think almost everyone's regressed. So yeah, I think he's not a developmental type of coach. He's more of a win now type of coach. He'll only view things as trying to win, and he doesn't care about the actual development of the players. For the rebuild, I think we do need I'm not going to say a huge rebuild. We do need to sign 5, 6, 7 players, I think, to actually really strengthen this team, because we're going to lose players.
If you go through this, right, so you need a goalie. Right.
Need a left back.
Will Ferry leaves, you'll need a left back. Have you signed the right back? You've signed an Australian right back. So there's that. Your defenders are covered if he's playing 3 at the back, because he'll probably activate the like Carestes' buy clause, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. You've got Yovu, you've got Gross Graham, you've got Cleo Harden.
And we'll need to get rid of S-Link, who we'll need to replace.
Well, does he want to leave? Is he on a tidy wage? You never know.
Well, maybe true, but I don't see him staying.
Middle of the park, Agee, Savelge, are they going to stay? You'd like to think so.
Yeah, Savelge has got a new deal. Agee, I think he's here till next season anyway, and I don't imagine anyone coming in for him. I hope not anyway.
No.
But I still think we need a creative midfielder.
You look further forward though, you've got Waters who's on loan who'll go back to his parent club. You've got Dolchek who's on loan who'll go back to his parent club. Mm-hmm. You've got Sapsford who started off very well and has been hit or a miss since. You've got
Fata
on loan who's going back. So you're needing if you're in a rebuild anywhere, it's in your front 3. I know that you've signed some boy for Australia.
You've signed 2 of them.
You've signed half of Australia.
Yeah.
It's certainly a major rebuild, maybe not, but you're certainly needing 7, 8 players.
Yeah, if you want depth as well, absolutely. Boys like Farrugia, as I mentioned in the group chat, I do not rate Farrugia in the slightest. I think he's absolutely hopeless. I don't know how he plays. His decision making is atrocious. He looks okay in the ball and does nothing with it. I honestly don't know what he brings. Couldn't get a game for the Puri, mate, honestly. He's just hopeless. I do not rate him in the slightest. And I want rid of him for the next season because he's offering nothing.
On that note, score predictions, Jack. There were quite a low score, very, very low scoring week this week in the score prediction challenge, so only 1 point picked up, and unfortunately for you it was for me.
Great.
The score lines were Dundee 1, St Mirren 0 and Kilmarnock 3, Dundee United 0. For the Dundee St Mirren game I went 2-2 and you went 1-0 St Mirren, so 0 points scored there. For the Kilmarnock United game I went 2-1 Killie, you went 2-1 United. So I got a point for the result. So that moves me on to 31, keeps you on 25. So I'm mounting the climb now, I think, for yourself, Jack.
I think so.
We'll just quickly cover the rest of the scores from the weekend across the Premiership and below. So the Friday night was covered by Livingston against Aberdeen, which was a 2-2 draw. The remaining the last games in the Championship were played out on Friday as well. It turned out that Ross County relegated again, so back-to-back relegations for them. And there was a bit of a shout at Capello between Morton and Airdrie, and Airdrie have taken the second bottom spot, I think, for the second year in a row. So they'll go into the League One playoffs. On Saturday, the scores were Dundee 1, St Mirren 0, Kilmarnock 3, United 0, and Falkirk 1, Motherwell 0. I think with League One drawn to a close, the champions of that were Inverness Cally Thistle, so they're back in the Championship, replacing their Highland neighbours. The promotion playoffs, I think, were taken with Alloa, Queen of the South, and Stenhousemuir. So Stenhousemuir play Queen of the South and Alloa play Airdrie, I think. And then obviously the winner of that will then go on to the two ties will play each other in the final. 2 was finished off with East Kilbride securing another promotion, so they're back-to-back promotions into League One. the playoffs positions were taken by, I think, Clyde, Spartans and Forfar. I think Forfar will play Hamilton from League 1, who finished 9th in League 1, and Spartans will face off with Clyde, with obviously the winners meeting. Next week is the first leg of the Pyramid playoff final, so Edinburgh City travel to Brora Rangers for the first leg of that. Edinburgh City off the back of a 5-0 win against Dumbarton. I think if you were to have reinstated Edinburgh City's 15-point deduction, they wouldn't have finished bottom. So they head up to Brora next week, and I think a lot of Central Belt chairmen will be cheering them on, because I don't think they'll be wanting to head up to Brora, especially for midweek games. Yesterday, the full-time score was Hibs 1, Celtic 2, and earlier on this evening, Hearts 2, Rangers 1. So I think that's pretty much Rangers out of the title race. Celtic 3 points behind Hearts. Hearts have got, I think, a 5-goal better goal difference, and then Rangers are, I think, 7 points off Hearts. They go to Celtic next week. I can't see them doing very much. So that's your weekend scores. Jack, we'll quickly cover any transfer news. I know that I sent you a article from whatever it was, wherever it was, a newspaper report, a BBC report, whatever it was from earlier or end of last week. Charlton Athletic in England are looking at both Luke Graham and Will Ferry.
Yeah, I think both these boys are going to be attracting a lot of attention this summer, and that doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I think you mentioned as well Blackburn potentially being interested as well, which doesn't surprise me either. They're both good young players. Obviously, Graham's a bit younger than Ferry, but regardless, they're both capable of playing at a higher level than what they are just now, and hopefully if they do move on, the clubs can gain a bit of money from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Other than that, I've not really seen anything else in terms of incomings for Dundee at all. I think you'll start seeing more of that, especially if they pick up a positive result on Saturday, because I think if they win on Saturday, they're safe, and then you'll start seeing contract extensions and potentially pre-contracts for incomings. Outgoings, other than Luke Graham, I can't say that I've seen many. I know that obviously John McCracken's been linked. Depending on how bad his injury is, if he's injured for 6 months, he might sign a year's extension with Dundee and do his rehab with Dundee and then come back and play out the season and then go. But other than that, I've not seen very many outgoings. Luke Graham's obviously the most one. He's been linked with a few teams. And look, Luke Graham is going to leave in the summer, and in my opinion, if you're resigned to the fact he's going to leave, he's not going to sign an extension, the more the merrier in terms of how many people are interested.
Yeah, very true, very true. As for United, the only news I've seen is that Dave Richards is going to be offered a new deal, and I'm actually very happy with that. I know he gets a lot of slack from people I've seen on the forums and whatnot. I think he's absolutely hopeless, but I actually think he's a solid enough backup option. I think he's miles better than Maynard Brewer. People are wanting Maynard Brewer to get a contract. I think Maynard Brewer's hopeless. I was looking at his stats, and based on their stats for what they've played this season, and if they were to play it over an entire season, Maynard Brewer would have conceded 15 more goals than Dave Richards this season, based on his prevented goal stats. So that just shows that Maynard Brewer is fucking shite. And so I think Richards getting a new deal is a good one. He's not going to be on big money. He's a good personality to have around the changing room. Everyone seems to like him very much so. So I think it's a good offer for us. It allows Rory Adams to go out on loan again, maybe to a championship club would be nice. He's obviously a Scotland a 21 international, so that would be good for him to get more senior experience at a higher level. And if that means keeping Dave Richards on for another year as backup, then so be it. I'm very much for that. No other incomings, though, from what I've heard, and outgoings, I've not heard much either, apart from the interest in Will Ferry. So,
what do you think? Do you think Will Ferry's a goner?
I think we've got to take the money for him, mate.
A year left on his deal. How old is he?
it's like 20, 24, 25? Maybe, something like that. Million plus, I reckon we'll get for him. You get that year left on his deal, I think you'd be stupid to say no, mate. So, and it gives you money to rebuild elsewhere in the squad, which we desperately need. And we can always bring in a new left back. So.
I think the full backs are one of the easy positions to replace.
Yeah, you can pretty much chuck anyone in there and they can do a job.
And obviously, you mentioned Blackburn were interested. That comes as no surprise given who their manager is.
Which is?
Michael O'Neill.
Oh, right, yeah.
So, yeah, I think Michael O'Neill, you'll know the Scottish market well. I think he lives in Edinburgh. He's obviously played a lot of his football here, played for United. So, yeah, there's no surprise that he's coming into the Scottish market. But we'll move on, Jack, because we have a community question. And just before we answer that, I did say this on a few episodes in the past, but if you have any community questions, please ask them, because it obviously makes our lives a bit more interesting when we're putting together these recordings for the podcasts. So anything about our experience of supporting Dundee and United, anything at all you're interested in finding out about what we think about the club. So drop a comment on the YouTube video, DM us on social medias, leave a comment on one of them, Twitter, Instagram. That's how to find us, and we'll be sure to answer them. But this week's community question, Jack, is name one keeper, defender, midfielder and attacker that previously played for the club that you would sign to sort out the current team. Now, you could obviously interpret that the way that you wanted, but I think we've both agreed to sign active players. Like, I could go back in the day and sign fucking Caniggia and put him up front, but Caniggia's about 60 years old, so he's the one who really sort out the current team. So I've put together 4 players, one from each area of the pitch, that are active players that I think would make a difference to Dundee's team. So I'll let you go first. Obviously, goalkeeper wise, who have you put down?
In goal, I've went with Benji Siegrist. We all know his time at United, he was excellent. One of, if not the best keeper in the league. Competing with McGregor anyway at that title. He saved United so many points, so many goals when he was here. And we need that commanding presence in goal. We both know, and everyone listening to this knows, that our goalkeepers have been absolutely dreadful this season. So he would definitely be a safe pair of hands, and it would steady the back line very tremendously, and he's also pretty good at coming for balls as well. So yeah, in goal for me is Benji Siegrist.
Fair enough. Now, this one is a very tricky one for me, given that there wasn't very many options. I think you could say Ian Lawler, Harry Sharp, he's still at Dundee, Trevor Carson, still technically at Dundee.
I've got a name for you.
Well, so I went for Scott Bain. Okay. Was really about the only one I could have went for. Is he better than John McCracken? Probably.
I've got a name for you. Dieng.
Good shout. That's a good shout, actually.
He's in the Championship, eh?
I think so.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure he's at Wednesday, and he was getting interest for Celtic in that.
Well, there's
potentially.
There's a good shout, actually. Yeah, that is a very good shout. But who have you went for the defender?
Defence, I've went with. Could be controversial one. I'm going John Souttar. I could have went Andy Robertson, but I think Will Ferry's more than capable at left back for us. I think we needed a boy in the middle of the pitch who could control the midfield, calm things down. Control the defence, calm things down, tell them what to do, guide them through the game. And I think out of the players that have been at us, I think John Souttar's probably the best option for that. I could have went for his brother Harry. I think he's still at Leicester, and they've just been relegated from the Championship. But I think with John Souttar being a Scotland international and all that, and that Rangers competing for a title, obviously they're probably not in that anymore, but I think he's more than capable of stepping into our back line and calming it down and guiding the younger defenders through it. So yeah, I'm going John Suter.
Fair enough. Not many options for me again here, so I've went for Jack Henry. I think that's probably one that most people would have expected me to go with. So yeah, would slot right into the centre of our defence. Midfielder, what have you went for?
Midfield, I've went for two options because I feel like they're both quite similar players. One's probably a bit more realistic than the other, but obviously my dream one would be Ryan Gauld. I think we needed a creative midfielder with a couple of defensive boys in there. Still I think he's only 29, 28, so he's still at his prime. And I think his creativity and unlocking that pass, he would create so many chances for United. The other option I could have went for, and I never, but I think he's another option that was a bit more realistic, would have been Jimmy McGrath. Good player to have in that middle of the pitch. He's creative. He doesn't mind getting stuck in if he needs to. Obviously, he's at Hibs. I think he's at Hibs now. Hibs or Aberdeen, one of the two. Anyway, I think he's a good player, and we probably missed him a wee bit when he left. But Ryan Gould's the ultimate, so I would choose Ryan Gauld over McGrath.
Okay. For mine, I think mine's is probably very unsurprising. I've went with Glenn Kamara, classic operator. What more can you say about Glenn Kamara? I think is he maybe in France now or Saudi Arabia? Wherever he is, he's getting right in a Dundees midfield, probably blindfolded. The only player that Paul McGowan never used to shout at, and I think that's probably because if Paul McGowan shouted anything at Glenn Kamara, he'd have the biggest brass neck in the world.
Yeah,
so yeah,
fair.
That's who I've went for. What about your forward player?
My forward player, I felt we needed a striker. We needed someone who is the antithesis of Max Waters, so someone that can press, someone that can head a ball, someone that can hold up the ball, someone that can score a goal. And I think it probably comes as no surprise. I've went Lawrence Shankland, banging in the goals for Hearts this season, can do all the things I've just listed. Can do the press if he needs to. He can play the target man, goal scorer. But I've also went for another option, and this one I feel is more realistic. One that I felt like could probably do a job in this team and probably would work well in this team. It's another striker. It's Louis Appert, playing League One with Cambridge, pushing for promotion from that league. Very strong player, hard to get off the ball. He's direct. He likes to. He does press. And I feel like he presses pretty well. So he would have been my backup option, but Lawrence Shankland is my number one choice there.
Fair enough. Now, when I seen this one, my mind immediately went towards Kane Hemmings. I think he's just been relegated into the National League with Barrow. He's getting on a bit now, Kane Hemmings. He's probably 30, 33, something like that. So maybe not a great option. There wasn't a lot of very good options that I could think of off the top of my head for this. So I've went a wee bit of rogue, and I know this probably wouldn't work, but for sheer banter alone it'd probably be a great one, and I've went with Jason Cummins. I think if you put Jason,
I knew that's who you're going for.
If you put Jason Cummins in a team that had a lot of the ball, he'll score loads of goals for you. The problem he had was when he first came out of Dundee, we were that team, we were predicted to win a lot of the games we were playing in. And he scored, I think it was 10 goals in the second half of the season. We won through the playoffs. The problem was the next season when we were in the Premier League was that we didn't have a lot of the ball and we were bottom of the league and no winning any games. And he wasn't the greatest striker to have in that position. And McPake was fucking him about and putting him wide right and everything like that, and it just wasn't working. So yeah, Jason Cummins, natural goal scorer. He will get you goals if you give him the service. So that's who I've went for.
I've got someone for striker that you could have chose as well, who I think might have been good.
Okay.
You've probably not thought of him, but Benjamin Coleman.
Yeah, that's a good shout. He's done well since he left Dundee.
He's at Hanover now.
Yeah.
Pretty big club, mate.
See, the problem is that I try to... you said Seri Dieng earlier on, you're saying Benjamin Shalman now. These players that have played in that season that I've tried to erase from my memory. Because I've seen Dundee win like 2 games of football all season. So yeah, I'm trying my best to forget every single minute of that part of my life.
Even though a couple of the players have went on to bigger and better things.
Well, Shalman certainly looked like he was alright when he was there, and as did Dieng, but The problem was they were surrounded by shite.
Yeah, fair.
So yeah, that's my community question answered. We'll move on to this weekend. Big games. We'll cover both of them at the same time, Jack. Dundee against Livingston. If they get probably a point, they'll be fine. I know that Livingston have been good in the past maybe couple of months. They've picked up, they did finally get their win. They have picked up a lot of draws, one of them being at Dens. They were 2-0 down within 5 minutes, and we were within 20 minutes they were 2-2. I think Dundee have got enough about them to win that game. Livingston have got nothing to play for now. I think it'll have been one of the weeks where people have probably been told that they're not getting contracts renewed and all sorts of stuff. So with Dundee having that bit of bite and the knowledge that if they win they are safe, because surely they would be safe if they win. You have to think if St Mirren win, they go above Killie, and if we win, we go 8 points clear of Killie with 2 games to go. So yeah, there you go. And if Killie win, would be 9 points. Yeah, so we win, we're safe, regardless of what happens in Paisley. As for United, they're at Aberdeen, Pittodrie, for the new firm rivalry. Not derby, rivalry. Obviously, pretty much a dead rubber. Aberdeen can't get relegated, United can't get relegated. But the fans will want one over on each other, won't they?
Yeah, definitely. Dundee game. Dundee win, obviously, you've said they'll stay up. I think they will win. Livy, as you said, nothing to play for, and it's a nothing game for them now. Dundee still have, obviously, the chance of getting their safety, so I think Dundee will be up for it. Livy are not going to be up for it, and I think Dundee could get a comfortable win there. As for United Aberdeen, obviously it's the new firm rivalry now, and we always want to get the better of them. I think this season the games against them have been the most boring games in the league. Both teams were absolutely terrible. Both times they played each other, so it's hopefully this one's a bit better. As for the result, I feel like Jim Goodman's going to do the same as against Killie, and he's going to go half and half. He's going to try and put a team out that wins whilst also giving the youngsters game time. And I don't think it's going to work. I think Aberdeen have picked up recently, and I think they might get the 3 points.
Here's a good start for you. It's the first time United have played Aberdeen in the bottom half of the split since 2003.
Oh, nice. 23 years.
23 years. So, it's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go with your score predictions. So, Aberdeen United, what's your score prediction?
I'm going to go 2-0 Aberdeen.
Okay. And Dundee versus Livy.
I think Dundee could do them. I think it's going to be 3-0 Dundee.
Okay. So just to give you context, I have went for 2-1 Dundee, and I've went for 2-2 in the Old Firm rivalry.
I like the emphasis.
Not derby. For any St Johnson fans listening. Okay, Futbology challenge, Jack. You're letting me down, mate.
I've still got time.
You've got 2 or 3 more game weeks. We're going to stop at 40, I think.
That's fine.
So
I got a chance.
2 more game weeks to get that 2 points to get you to 25. We have a bit of movement in terms of last week and the week before. We had 2 wins, me and Martin, and the gap was 2 points between myself at the top and Martin in second. This week I have a game from the 4th of May 2003. Speaking about 2003, Jack, Dundee versus Rangers, a 2-2 draw that's 9,195 people watched. The managers were Jim Duffy and Alec McLeish, and the starting 11s were as follows. For Dundee, Speroni, Hernandez, Kishnasvili, Mackay, Smith, Wilkie, Carranza, Nimzadze, Ray, Caballero and Lovell. And on the bench, Langfield, Mayer, Burchell, Milne and Novo. For Rangers, they went with Kloss, Muscat, Moore, Newman, Rickson, Malcolm, Ferguson, Arteta, De Boer, Moles and Lovenkrands. And on the bench, McGregor, Conterman, Hughes, Kenija and Arveladze. The goal scorers for the game were Lee Wilkie OG on 1 minute. There was 2 goals from Caballero before half time to put Dundee 2-1 up, and a 85th minute Mikel Arteta penalty was the equaliser for Rangers. Now, I remember this game more than most. Obviously I was 7 at the time, and the Rangers missed 2 penalties in this game and scored the third one that they got. So I think the first penalty Barry Ferguson hit the bar, the second penalty Speroni saved it, and then Arteta got a third penalty, which I think came pretty much straight from the second penalty. If I remember rightly, Speroni tipped it wide for a corner, the corner came in and they got a third penalty, and Arteta scored it late. So that game was very memorable. That then set up the league helicopter Sunday, where Rangers won the league on goals scored, something mental like that, and it was the dress rehearsal for the Scottish Cup final. Still the only Scottish Cup final that I've seen Dundee play in, where they were narrowly beaten 1-0 later in May by Rangers, who won 1-0 with an Amoruso header. So wee bit of a throwback to that one. As for Martin, he had a game from May the 4th, 2013. 1-0 St Johnstone win at Tannadice was watched by 6,437. The managers were Jackie McNamara and Steve Lomas. For United, they went with Szczesniak, Dillon, Johnston, McLean, Suter, Armstrong, Flood, Gardine, Mackay, Stephen, Miller and Bailey. And on the bench, Anderson, Spark, Gould, Rankin, Bolden, Dow and Russell. As for St Johnstone, they went with Manis, Mackay, Wright, Anderson, Scobie, Miller, Davidson, Craig, Taddy, McLean and Vine. And on the bench, Tuffy, Miller, Caddis, Craig, Edwards, Doughty and Hasselbank. And the scorer was Liam Craig on the 38th minute. So after all that, I extend my lead by an extra point. I am now 3 points clear of Martin, who has a 4-goal better off goal difference than me. And as I said, we've got 3 more game weeks to decide who wins the Futbology Challenge in the first season of the Sandeman Street Podcast. Anything you'd like to add there, Jack? I heard you trying to come in a couple of times.
No, it's just, as you know, that Rangers team is quite... I liked a few of the players then.
Yeah.
As you know, I had a wee Rangers inkling when I was younger. And boys like Stefan Kloss and Shots Averlatze and all that, I was very fond of. Thankfully, I've found my way, and I know United is the only team for me, but back then I was swayed slightly.
Well, there you go. So that's the Futbology Challenge covered. We'll move on to our monthly top 5 for the month of May. Jack was in charge of picking this week, and he has went for favourite players of each club. So, favourite players that you have seen play for either Dundee or United. Since you are my regular co-host, Jack, I'll let you go first. Who is your number 5?
My number 5, I've went for Jaroslav Foyut. Who doesn't love a big, baldy Polish centre-half? Obviously, came in, scored the winner against Dundee in the derby in the Scottish Cup, and all round he was a solid defender. And he was big, like I say, a big baldy centre-half. Who literally can't get any better than that. So, number 5, Jaroslav Foyut.
Okay, for my number 5, I have went with Greg Stewart. Now, there'll be a bit of a theme that you'll kind of pick on with the rest of my picks, but I had to go with somebody from that sort of time frame, and Greg Stewart, how could you not love Greg Stewart? Like you're saying with your pick, how could you not love a boy who chops boys for fun, gets on the ball, you don't know what he's going to do, but you do know what he's going to do because he's going to come back onto his left foot and curl one in the top corner. He was a joy to watch for Dundee for a couple of years. I only wish that they managed to keep a hold of him for a bit longer. He doesn't ever seem to have really replicated his form at Dundee really since he ever left. I know that he had a wee bit of a good time at Kilmarnock. He was at Aberdeen a couple of times, but he never really ever produced what he produced at Dundee again, in my opinion. So yeah, Greg Stewart's my number 5. What about yourself?
Number 4, I've went with GMS. Gary Mackay-Steven. On his day, he was very fun to watch. Obviously, he got viral a few times for his skill moves back in the day against Kelly and St Johnstone, the Gaz Getaway being one of them. He was just a joy to watch. He had scored a few good goals against Dundee as well, and he always tore it up on that left wing. So yeah, I'm going to go number 4, GMS.
Okay, for my number 4, I have went for a man who needs no introduction to Dundee fans, an absolute legend, Barry Smith. I have arguments with people all the time, United supporters, who say that people can't be legends because they've not won a cup or whatever. You can be a legend if you've not won a cup. The man had 400 and odd appearances for Dundee, I think, maybe 300 and odd. 10 years of service, came back and was a manager, 2 different administration periods, one as a player, one as a manager, led by example, led us into a Scottish Cup final, into Europe, an absolute legend of Dundee Football Club. So I went for number 4, Barry Smith.
Okay, number 3 for me, I went with a boy we've just signed. That's Johnny Russell. Always fun to watch. Went on to bigger and better things after he left United, and he's got the Johnny Russell derby. If I say that, you know what derby it is I'm on about. Just a joy to watch, honestly. And obviously he's back now, he's 36. He's probably lost a wee bit of his speed, but on his day he was untouchable for United. So yeah, number 3, Johnny Russell.
Okay, for me, number 3 is Julian Speroni. I mean, he used to come towards Bobby Cox and stand in the goal and everyone would go, Speroni, Speroni, with the hands bowing to him almost. He was an absolute legend, an absolutely brilliant goalkeeper. 2.5 years of service at Dundee, no long enough. Got decent enough dough for him when he went down to Crystal Palace, but nowhere near as much as we should have got for a man of his ability. He then went on to play for Crystal Palace for something like 13 or 14 seasons. Testimonial, what does he do? He could pick big teams in Europe, he could pick his hometown team from Argentina. He brings Dundee down for a testimonial game. One of those ones where we're all in football to win. We're all in football to see our team win trophies, get the cup finals, get the semi-finals, have days out. That was one of the rare occasions in football where it was just a brilliant day out. That you don't get many of them. Pre-season jaunt to someplace in England sometimes, but with 3,000 fans, it was an absolutely brilliant experience going down there with so many Dundee fans. And also they brought back quite a few of the old players who played for Dundee at the time, Lansara, Carranza, Tamuri Kitsbaya, to name a few. What a night that was. So that, and the fact he was a brilliant goalkeeper, the first proper Dundee goalkeeper I remember as a supporter. Julian Speroni is my number 3.
My number 2 is the wind-up merchant, I feel like himself, Nadir Çiftçi. Turkish guy, signed him from unknown club. I think it was actually Nakbrera, so not exactly unknown, but nobody knew who he was. Comes in, sets legal light, I feel like, for United. Dundee fans absolutely hated him, which made it 10 times better. And he loved to score a goal. He was a very good player for us in that team. It was just a great team all around, really, and I felt he was the character the team needed. I think the team was full of nicey boys probably at the time, and he was the type that would wind up players and get the team up for it. So yeah, always have good memories of him, and I was sad to see him go when Celtic came in for him. But yeah, so number 2 for me, Nadir Çiftçi.
Number 2 for me, he came down from heaven to wear number 7. He's Fabian Caballero. What a player. What a player. Probably one of the best players I've ever seen playing for Dundee, if not the best. He was an outstanding footballer. I never even seen the best of him, because he got his knee injury just before I started going to watch Dundee regularly. When he came back, he probably had lost half a yard, but the weight of a pass, dribble and pass boys with ease. just an absolute, just a street footballer really, and it's obviously so sad to hear what happened to him 18 months ago or so on passing away, but an absolutely outstanding footballer, and he came back a handful of times to both play in testimonial games and to visit, see the fans and whatnot. So yeah, my number 2 is Fabian Caballero, R.I.P. What a player.
And my number 1 is, I think I've maybe chosen him just because of his chant. He is obviously a cult hero at United, and that is Jimmy Gomez. Probably one of the best chants in football, by a showing, probably. But I think he was a great player for United. Obviously, after winning the Scottish Cup with us, he went down to England for a few years before eventually coming back up to Scotland. I think he actually is still playing, believe it or not. I think he's still in Shire or something just now. But he was a very good player for United. And the chant made it 10 times better. So, number 1 for me, Jimmy Gomez.
Okay, so for my number 1, I'm going to do something a wee bit different. And I could have filled my whole list with people from this, but I wanted to add players from different eras and different times of one another. I know that Barry Smith, Speroni and Caballero were from pretty much the same era, but my number 1 is the Dundee Defiant squad. You couldn't have pick a player, an individual player from there, and I felt like if you were to pick 5, it would be unfair on the rest of them. So I'm just going to name them all the players who played for Dundee in that era, young boys, first team players, trialists, who done their bit for the cause in that time, from the £25 deduction being put in place after the administration. So goalkeepers, Rab Douglas and John Gibson. I mean, Rab Douglas needs no introduction, the man's an absolute legend. Gary Irvine, Craig McEwen, Stuart Greason, Rhys Weston, Matt Lockwood and Kyle Benedictus. Midfielders, Jamie Adams, Gary Harkins, another legend, Neil McCann, Stephen Robb, Johnny Stewart, Stephen O'Donnell, Nicky Riley, Craig Forsyth, Graham Webster, Gary Bartlett, Conor Rennie and Craig Robertson, and forwards Lee Griffiths, Sean Higgins, Tom Brighton, Leighton McIntosh, Alan Tullith, Jake Hyde, David Whittenveen and Graham Bain. All of them played their part. You know what, right? As I said earlier on, sometimes legends in football aren't just from winning trophies. There's things that happen in clubs, and as a Dundee supporter, we might not have a club if it wasn't for the fact that these boys were playing through injuries and all sorts of stuff. 24 games or something they went unbeaten, with 11 players, a handful of trialists and a handful of young boys. Really was something special to watch, in all honesty. 15, 16, however old I was at the time. Born the tits off people probably, but at that time it was do or die for Dundee, and if they'd got relegated, they probably wouldn't be here now. They'd be playing junior football or something like that, like a Clydebank. That's mine. Number 1 is the Defiant squad.
Any honourable mentions?
I had a couple. Gavin Ray. I loved Gavin Ray as a player. Came back a couple of times, captained us to the championship. The second time he returned, I did love Kane Hemmings as a player. Boys just scored goals. You love a goal scorer. Peter McDonald, another goal scorer. And I loved Nicky Riley, actually. And I know that I've put him in, it technically is my number 1. On his day, Nicky Riley was a brilliant player. Georgi Mzadze, another absolutely outstanding football player. Peter McDonald, what a player. Recently, not many recently that have stuck around long enough for you to. I mean, obviously, like boys like Paul McGowan who give 7-8 years of service. You like boys like him, but yeah. Any honourable mentions for yourself?
I've went with Paul Gallagher. He was the first goal. Being the goalie when I was younger, he was the first goalie I seen at United. So I went Paul Gallagher, Mad Monk, Simultowski. I went Gold and Robertson, Paul Payton. Of that year, that whole squad was really fun to watch. A controversial one, probably for what he done after he left United, but Good Willie. I really enjoyed watching him. And last but not least, no introduction, Van der Sande.
God, he's going to score before they build New Campy.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually thought that I've seen that he's actually scored quite a few goals this season.
Oh, probably. It wouldn't surprise me at all. He would have done more for us than Max Waters has anyway, let's put it that way.
God's sake. Anyway, that is the end of episode 42 of the Sandeman Street Podcast. That was our May monthly top 5, the May edition. We'll obviously have one for June that will probably come with our build-up to the World Cup. We'll get hopefully 2 or 3 special guests on, and then we'll have specialised episodes live, well not live, but recorded in Boston, recorded in Miami after Scotland's World Cup matches. So keep up to date on our socials for that. Nicely on our socials. On Twitter we are at SandemanStPod. On Instagram we are at the Sandeman Street Pod. And on YouTube we are at the Sandeman Street Podcast. So check us out on there and give us a like and subscribe, like our videos, etc, etc, etc. But from Jack and from myself, thanks very much for listening as always. Have a great weekend and we'll see you next week. Cheers.